Okay. So we're on to week 3 of our Inspired by the Masters project. So last week I did a little bit of work on this demonstration, which I did a little bit more in the lead class, and then I've done a few sessions in the studio as well over the weekend. So quite enjoying painting that one. And I think it's nearly there. I think I might do a little bit more just to balance things out or anything. But so I thought I thought today I would do a drawing demonstration, more like just pens, which was again inspired by Van Gogh, and a little bit of a talk really. So I brought this. I've got a couple of things in to show you. Well, this was just something I did on the weekend. So just to show you one of the things I do on my days teaching. That was we got dishwashing. That was went to Dark Horse. And then this one I brought in because as I was painting this, I remembered that I painted this one, which was the same subject. So this is how I normally work. And this was painting that started off as a demo for an art club. And I worked up in the studio, some photos, a little bit more work. So I just thought it was quite interesting just to compare really. This is my normal sort of style, and this is quite nice to sort of, same subject, I think these are the same sort of trees, but you know, in a different style. So that's really. Yeah, so this, let's say, inspired by the Van Gogh, and I also took a few liberties with the colours. I also made me think a bit about David Hockney's paintings as well. I don't know if I've got any examples exactly of that kind of thing. He's an artist I've been interested in for a long time, and I guess that one on the cover in a way you could say is a little bit inspired by Van Gogh. Why?
Well, some people don't like him.
Oh, I don't.
Well, that's all right. You don't like it. I'm just saying it's somebody that I've been inspired by over the years. But yeah, you could see all sorts of influences really. You know. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about. So that's Van Gogh's painting, but drawing. And I've always liked slightly kind of. Do you like Van Gogh?
Yeah, it's all right.
It's all right. Well, I'll show you. Maybe I can. Yeah, so the sort of things that I've always quite liked these are some of his drawings. I always quite like these drawings, and they're very much like his paintings in that you've got individual paint marks and you've got almost like individual pen marks. But he's making all sorts of little shapes to suggest the different surfaces. So I think they're quite nice and inventive and interesting. And really, nobody else drew like that has ever, drawn that I can think of has drawn like that before Van Gogh did, really. And they're very much inspired by the paintings, and he was probably inspired by the sort of work that was at the time. Well, one thing I remembered was that he was very inspired by Japanese art, and at the time that he was painting, Japanese woodblock prints were very, very fashionable in Paris, and the Impressionists and Van Gogh would have been able to buy them very cheaply. And this is, a sort of I think looks like a sort of a catalogue or a poster or something of Japanese art. And then he squared that up and then made a painting out of it. And one of the features of these Japanese they were prints, so they were made out of wood blocks, and they did have like lines around the edges of the colours, which Van Gogh really took on and included that a bit in his painting. So this, when I was using that as my reference, I was thinking you've got all these lines here around figures and around things, and that's very much where he drew his inspiration from the Japanese. So it's quite interesting how artists sort of develop styles, and it's not like they're completely their own style. They sort of have something that they follow, and then they borrow a bit from here and borrow a bit from there, and something new evolves. So that's very much how modern art developed really over the last century. So I thought just on mention that. And again, back to Hockney, I was sort of thinking, so that's the Van Gogh, and then this is one of my Hockney works. So Hockney is an artist that's done all sorts of styles. When I was younger, I really used to like these very photorealist sort of paintings that he did. So these are the early paintings, well, sort of, probably not the very earliest, but some of the early paintings that he did. This is in the Tate Gallery, so this is an acrylic painting that's a really big painting. It's probably sort of like half the size of that wall, but very naturalistic style. And then he also at different times has experimented with other styles.
When did he die?
He's still alive.
Still alive.
Hockney.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Van Gogh, when did Van Gogh die?
Oh, well,
Sorry, back to Van Gogh. So that was the moving from Van Gogh to Hockney. Van Gogh, I mean, Van Gogh.
Telephone in there.
That's it.
Had a telephone in the picture.
Yes. But it's just to make sure you're following.
Yeah, just making sure that
You'll be tested on this later. But Van Gogh was, that was like the early stuff.
Who are we on now?
Back to Van Gogh, because you were talking about when he died. I thought I better come back. I'm moving to the critical. So Van Gogh. So that's when he died, 1890. 53 to 1890. I mean, he was an artist whose whole career was 10 years from start to finish. So he started off just copying books, copying things. So these really dark, very traditional looking still lifes and things like that. And then he moved into this more kind of, bolder brushwork, a little bit like the one that you're copying, Paula. That looks a little bit more, doesn't look the most modern, but it's sort of much thicker sort of brushwork. And then eventually the last 3 years of his life were the paintings that he's really famous for. And then he died really. So if he died 3 years earlier, I don't think any of us would have heard of him. So he's quite a remarkable artist, I think, and just very intense amount of volume of work that he painted.
See where he's had his hair cut, look, he got blood on it.
Yeah, that's where I've let my books to my students on this play. So anyway, I thought, well, that's that, and then I was thinking, Hockney. Some of Hockney's sketches are very much back to Hockney now. So I was thinking, like those sort of marks are very like the Van Gogh marks, aren't they? I think. So you can see the sort of influence of Van Gogh on Hockney, and you can also look at other artists that influence Hockney. But I just thought I'd mention that. When I was younger, so these were the very early sort of line drawings that he used to do. Well, he's probably still can do those. And I thought they were fabulous. And his idea was to just draw without making any. He didn't do underdrawings in pencil. He would just observe very carefully and draw straight away with a pen. So that is the way I started drawing probably about 20, 30 years ago. And I liked that idea of just really concentrating and not worrying about mistakes really. And there are mistakes, when you look carefully you can find mistakes in them, but sometimes if you get most of it right, you don't necessarily notice the mistakes. So I thought that was quite interesting, and I just thought I'd sort of show you in a way it's sometimes how I still draw. So these are a couple of sketches I did the weekend before last. Not this weekend gone, but the one before. So this was one.
I like that artist.
Like him, yeah. So again, I started in the same sort of way. He's a bit sketchier than David Hockney was. He used to draw. And that's another one sort of drawing on the tube. And because it's people and people move, I tend to draw a bit quicker, but that is very basically how I start out. And then over the years, I've decided to start adding tone, which is the sort of tone mark. So I just have some grey pens that I add in. And then another variation of that is these. Sometimes, well, this one I haven't actually got that much in this sketchbook, but sort of drawing with the lines and then adding tone and then adding a bit of white chalk. So that's kind of how my own sketches have evolved. From that early influence of people like Van Gogh and David Hockney. But I thought this might be quite nice if you fancied a drawing exercise, a bit of a break from painting, just explore drawing for a change. It could be a copy of, one of these drawings, or just experiment with something of your own. So maybe I'll just use this one. And it's a painting that you could perhaps interpret back as a drawing. So with my own drawing, these are the fine liner pens, which, that's possibly going to be a little bit too small to see. So I'll go a bit bigger. But basically, I would do my outlines with something like this. So if I was going to draw this lady here, something along those lines, put a face in there. I do find that most people do like to sort of do a pencil under drawing first. But somehow, if you just have a go straight with a pen, it makes you work a lot more fluid for a start, and eventually you definitely get better. Just practice, and it's a nice kind of nice way of just sort of learning to really focus and really concentrate. So that could be that figure. Yeah, and then you could then just sort of work in the thing I like about these is it's so quick to just pop in some tone. Whereas if I was using pencil, that would take me ages to fill away, and it's a bit tedious.
Are they fine line?
These are brush pens, so you can get some very cheap ones in the works, apparently. Don't know what they're like. No good today. These ones are about $3.50 each.
Good.
Yeah, these are nice. These are Tombow, they're called. So I just buy them one at a time. I only really use 3 because I basically use as much as I can hold in my hand. Otherwise, because quite often I'm sketching and holding the sketchbook. But yeah, a couple of different tones. And very portable. They're not going to get smudged. You're not going to spill it all over whatever you haven't got to have water or anything with them. And then I use this one that's virtually black. It's actually a really dark grey. But I find with 3 tones, that's kind of plenty to get. And all of a sudden, it starts to take on a little bit of shape and volume, really. So that's something I definitely recommend if you want to develop your drawing, practice your drawing, develop your ideas. Along those lines. But equally, you could probably do something in this sort of style. So, looking at the marks, he uses sort of long straight marks here. Perhaps some nice sort of kind of curly marks. So the drawing I showed you to start with would be made with a reed pen, but this would be a much easier and kind of cleaner way of making a drawing. Just using something like these. Is that enough to hopefully inspire?
Those you can add water to them as well, can't you? You can make
Yeah,
it bleed a little bit.
you can, yeah, you
If
can.
you wanted a less
I do sort of smudge
smudgy line.
it.
You fill them up then? You fill the barrel up?
No, they're just a disposable pen.
Oh, I see.
There are brush pens you can fill up, which is this sort of thing, like a water pen.
Yeah.
So again, I use these for sketching, you can soften all that out. So that I use perhaps quite often use these with a little bit of watercolour, in my sketchbook. And again, it saves carrying around pots of water and things and brushes and things to spill when you're sketching. You don't need it in here, but for if you're into sketching, yeah, but yeah, these are a nice way of sketching. Fancy trying anything like that. Okay. Yep.